Okay, this is Jeff Zeig. I'm in Phoenix, Arizona at the offices of the Milton Erickson Foundation with another 5-minute tip for therapists. We started a sequence in this where in the last video I introduced some ideas about orienting toward. Just to repeat, orienting toward is a state. Now, that doesn't sound like a state to most people, but I'm conceptualizing it as a state. It's just a way of being in the world. Rather than giving information, as a scientist would do, and explaining a scientific or a mathematical formula, orienting toward is a way that you communicate when you want somebody to have a change in their state. You have to use a different kind of grammar for informing people about facts than you do for orienting toward. Now, one of the ways in which we can orient toward is to use metaphor. Metaphor, as I've talked about before, is a way of communicating in parallel. Metaphor is one of many different figures of speech that have been analyzed by people who study grammar. And in a metaphor, we're using something that indicates, that refers to something else in a way that is not literal. Saying to somebody, you're a lion, is a metaphor because it's communicating to the person that they have a quality, but it's not really communicating to the person that they're a lion. The person has to activate in order to understand. Now, therapists use metaphor when you want the client to have a conceptual realization. So let's say that you were a hypnotist and you were doing an induction of hypnosis and you wanted to use metaphor. It's advisable. Well, you could do an induction of hypnosis by saying to the person that they should look at a spot on the wall and relax and give them progressive understandings of relaxation. But another way of using metaphor is to make the induction a metaphor. The induction doesn't have to be a means of going into, a method of going into trance. Induction can be a means of offering therapy. The induction should be coordinated with the therapy to follow. So let's say that I talked with a person about, in an induction of hypnosis, about being a lion. And I talked about details, possibility in the present tense of being a lion. We don't normally project inductions into the video world because we don't know the effect on clients. So just think about talking about the qualities of being a lion. Resting peacefully, being at ease, being aware, being attentive, looking for something that's important, and weaving an induction that was about a quality that you were hoping that the other person assumed. Now, a second way of using metaphor and induction is that in traditional induction, there's 3 stages. Stage number 1 is the induction. In traditional hypnotherapy, stage number 1 is the induction. Stage number 2, 3, is when we are doing the utilization of hypnosis. In between those 2 stages is a hypnotic phenomena. That hypnotic phenomena traditionally could be that the hypnotist says, your eyes are tightly shut, you can't open your eyes, your arm is a steel bar, you can't bend your arm. Well, those are perfectly fine, but we could also use a metaphor as a hypnotic phenomena. This is something that Milton Erickson did frequently, called the symbolic use of a hypnotic phenomena. So saying to the person, rather than your arm is a steel bar, is that you can feel in a special way the flexibility of your arm, that you can experience in a certain way the flexibility of your perception. Because the idea in the therapy would be to prompt flexibility, so the hypnotic phenomena that you would choose as a convincing technique could be about the concept that you want the client to assume. Those are 3 different ways of using metaphor. Metaphor could be used for therapy, metaphor could be used for induction, metaphor could be used as a hypnotic phenomena in order to elicit realizations. You want the person to activate, to understand, to realize a concept. This is Jeff Zeig. Here I am in Phoenix, Arizona at the offices of the Milton Erickson Foundation with another 5-minute tip for therapists.